All right, welcome back to episode 27 of the Reinvent and Hunt podcast. Been rolling through summer here. We're kind of getting near the end, and I know September is coming up real fast for us next weekend with Labor Day, and everybody's excited to get out there and get their stands hung. I know a lot of people are probably putting up things right now. I need to get out and get those done here, my parents' property and around. So, how do you guys feel about early season tonight? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
yeah, let's go for it. I'm
Okay. Sounds like a good point of discussion. We could talk about maybe some fun stand stories, also kind of what hunters do. I'm going to focus on whitetail here in Ohio, just from my past history of hunting, and how the tactics totally changed throughout the season. And I think if we can share some things that we've all learned out there with everybody across the board, maybe it'll help those younger hunters learn some things and tactics to approach it with, as well as the other seasoned people kind of share these things around.
Yeah, when does your season open in
Sound good.
Ohio, Josh?
Ours is always the end of September. Usually it's the last week of September archery opens up, and that runs through early February, like February 4th usually in the neighborhood.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, ours
And
ours archery opens September 7th this year. It's always like that first Friday after Labor Day.
yeah,
Okay,
So,
Missouri September 15th and runs to January 15th. And it's only closed during our rifle season in November. That's the only time bow season's closed.
okay, so they're fairly close. A little bit of by
Yeah.
weeks there, but
yeah.
still fairly close. I know our late season, you start looking at trying to be real careful with what you shoot because you don't want to shoot a antlerless buck that dropped them already, and it's pretty easy to
Oh
tell.
yeah.
But still, you never know. You never know about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're always like that. The dream at some point is the Kentucky velvet deer, which our deer usually are hard horned, always when it comes into Ohio. But and a lot of people get
hmm
down to Kentucky early season, and I think it'd be good to talk about early season tonight because you're getting out, and I know there's all sorts of philosophies out there. So I'm not gonna say one's better than the other because I think the best thing we can do here in this podcast is share things with people out there that we've learned and just build on each other. I think that's the best way to approach it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So how do you guys feel about early stand placement? Let's start with that. So like it's right before the season, we're getting kind of close. When do you put your stands out and why?
Personally, like you, I hunt primarily whitetail here in Missouri, and I like to find just off of corners of fields, crop fields, generally ag fields. There's a lot of them here in Missouri, and I like to be right off the corners. Those corners seem to attract the deer to come in. I like to be right off of there. Early season, I'm more apt to shoot a doe or two early season than I am in a rut or after. So I try to position there. If I do have a buck that I know that is staging early, I may set an alternate stand up to try to catch them in a staging area early season. But if I go out early season, it's generally I'm trying to put meat in the freezer, so it's all about the does for me. Um, I think in 40 years of hunting, there's maybe been twice that I've had target bucks that I've seen in mid September. Uh, and generally not where I'm setting at the time. So
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
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 they're popping up on your cell phone at a different location each time.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Kevin, how about you down there? What do you like to do for early season?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like we have a lot of around where I hunt, a lot of standing corn, especially like probably into October most of the time.
That's rough.
Um, yeah, so I mean, deer have no reason to leave the corn, not a lot. They like to hide in there. It's a good hiding. They got food, they got pockets of water. So, they'll normally cruise up and down the edge of cornfields. So, setting up on fields or close to them is pretty good early season. We have a lot of soybeans and cornfields.
Absolutely. I know as far
Yeah,
as
so
myself, I like to get, stands out pretty close to now. I'm a little bit later maybe this year than usual, but get them out in the tree, do some trimming, look at your shooting lanes, look at your angles, where they're coming in and coming out at. And I'm a little bit, I guess I would say like calculated when it comes to knowing where the deer are maybe going to come in from, their bedding, and where they're going to head to feed. I'm a right hand shooter, so I like to have a big angle my left side to swing and sweep
mhm.
for a shot. If they're coming with my right, I don't have to quirk around weird and contort your body. I try to be really cognizant of like the angles that deer are coming in at, their flow, their walking paths. I think maybe when I was a younger hunter, you just kind of throw stuff up and hope, and you get lucky sometimes. But I think the early season, I tend to hunt like you said, Kenny, the crop edges, soybean fields. That way, if I'm in a tree and I'm tucked back in, I like to say about 20 yards off the field, just try to conceal myself, in the tree, and then not right on the edge. It tends to lead to bad things. They silhouette you or pick you out quite a bit. But then watch those big mature bucks and see if they're coming in. I know a lot of guys here in Ohio. Like last year, I was kind of shocked. There was a lot of huge deer taken the first weekend because I think guys are getting really good with their game cameras, like the spy points out there, and identifying these big deer patterns early. And sometimes you get lucky and you get them on a nice pattern, and they are able to take them the first week. And I never could do that, Kenny. I'm the same way. Usually, I want to learn. I sit out there and watch, and don't really expect anything. Like you said, maybe a doe if it's not too hot out the first month or so. But then I did have last year the target buck I was after, giving that great opportunity really early. It was probably into September, and I had everything perfectly set up for that deer. I talked about it a few times now, and I ended up burning myself because I wasn't alert enough, and I just didn't expect it. He was there, didn't expect it, and he ended up, he was a big mature deer and weary. I knew he had burnt me burned when he locked right on me, and it was that you see that meme once in a while on Facebook of that big old buck, and he's looking right up at me, and he's not moving, and it says, "What are you gonna do?" And I'm like, well, every time it's like PTSD for me because I'm like, get burned as that thing blows and takes off through the cornfield. But it was a cool experience, and like anything you learn. And I know one story I've got I want to share. My dad, I mean, I want to share this because he's actually in the room right now. He's laughing already. I was in, I don't know, later high school, maybe college, something like that, early college. And we were going out one morning on my grandpa's farm, 240 acres in Killbuck, Ohio here. And we were in a nice area on top of a hill. There's some cluster of trees. And there's bigger woods down below, hardwoods. And I was going down over the other side of the hill, and he's like, I'm going to get in this tree up here. It was out in a field where they tend to cut across the trail. And he goes, I think I'll eat a starlight mint. And I looked at him and I was like, that's a bad idea. Oh, they won't smell that. They won't even pay attention, I've heard guys that are out, they'll smoke in tree stands and shoot the big old deer, depending on where you're at. And you see the guys from Seek One in Columbus shooting double drop tines or huge deer, by areas that aren't the greatest in the world. But I thought, you're gonna get burned by that. So I went down the other side of the hill, and sure enough, this big old mature buck came up out of the woods right at him, probably 15 yards or 20 yards, and that thing just stopped and froze, he said, and looked up and took a couple of sniffs and then took off back in the woods. And he actually, I saw him going down over the hill by me quite a ways away, and I walked over the hill and I said, it was a mint, wasn't it? He started laughing. He goes, yep, I ate a starlight mint and it burned me. And I said, I told you, it's not always the case, but it was one of those fun memories I have of, I told him, like, it's going to burn you. It's going to get you. So it was fun.
Mm-hmm. I got a buddy in Michigan that he says he has an uncle swears by aqua velva. He will literally take aqua velva out and pour it down. He says, man, it attracts better than any attractant you'll ever use.
You never know.
I'm not brave enough to try
it. You never know. Yeah, it's something out there, the way that people have all these high-end scents and attractants, and there's no disrespect here. I mean, anything is worth a try, and it's always interesting to me. It's like last year that big deer we took. I put a estrus out spray, aerosol before, about an hour before he popped out, and I didn't know. I just thought, well, I'll spray some of this around and see what happens. And he was definitely interested in it and popped out. So those stories are fun. But I think early season, it's hard because you want to try to get in there and hunt some, and you don't want to pressure them. And they're usually kind of running bachelor groups here in Ohio for a bit. The bucks are still around, and then the bigger ones seem like they kind of peel off and do their own thing for a while. But man, I don't know about you guys, but those big mature deer are real weary here early season in Ohio. You have to be very fortunate to get on one.
We might get like a week or two where you might catch them off guard, but it's so hot during early season too. It's hard for scent control. So, yeah. Around here, you get 1 to 2 weeks maybe, and then they pick up quick, and then they start changing their patterns, and you got to track them down all over again. So absolutely, it's definitely difficult.
I was going to say, here in Missouri, it's the same way. I mean, we're generally in the high 80s, low 90s, mid-September. It's just hard. And when you're old and fat like me, it's just really hard.
You just sweat. I get it. I get it. Yep. By the time you get to your stand, even if it's like 100 yards away, you're dripping sweat and you're trying to climb up and you're huffing. I totally understand. Yeah. And then the skeeters are around. Once in a while, usually early season, the skeeters are buzzing you and driving you crazy for a while.
No, I use a Thermacell all early season, man. I swear by them.
They do work great.
I will not go in the woods early season without a thermocell.
I
Yep.
agree.
All the way to about the end of October here. I'll
Yep.
take the thermosol. Yep.
It's worth it's worth your sanity sitting out there, so they don't just
Oh,
drive you
absolutely.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Best
It's like a form of
Scared
torture.
Yeah.
It's
Don't
like
move.
it's like a form of torture just sitting there and like letting the mosquitoes just fly around you and bite you. Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, then you sit there and you try not to move, right? And you hear this,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, try to do this and not move a lot.
Yeah, and they're relentless. Like, and the mosquitoes down like where I hunt, man, they're like big enough. They'll pick you up and carry you away almost. Like it's like, I mean, at least fly me to my tree stand.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Yeah. I don't like those early hot walks in. That's always a pain because then you're trying to, like you said, eliminate scent, and it just never seems to work out. You just end up tripping.
Yeah. But I'm such a like a die hard. I just love hunting so much that it doesn't deter me. I don't know. I just go anyways. I try my best and try to play the wind as best as I can too. But
yeah,
I just love hunting. So as soon as that season opens, it's game on.
Yeah. See, I don't know, probably 10, 15 years ago, I quit hunting early season, and I wait till about mid-October anymore. It just seems to work best for me. I mean, I don't like the hot temperatures. You know, I like to be comfortable when I walk out. I don't want to sweat.
Yeah.
You know, early season, I'm half naked by the time I get to the stand just to try to prevent.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just tough. And most of the places I hunt, like you, scent control is so important. I mean, that's
right.
If there's anything to pass on to anybody, is, you know, wind direction, wind direction. You know, so pick your location right. And your walk-in, and people forget about, well, your stand can be in the best place then, but if your walk-in is horrible,
right? Yeah,
you're going to keep everything out, right?
Yeah.
And
have an enter and an exit plan.
Yeah, and I learned that the hard way a long time ago. Man, I had great I've got property that I went back and hunted down, the same stand sites, but I've found a way to get in without getting busted, and it makes a difference. So
yeah, for sure.
And I'm not I don't hunt bedding areas. I know people that do, but man, I've tried and I have failed, and I have tried and I have failed. But it seems like every time I try to put a stand near a bedding area, I walk in at the time that one of them wants to walk out and get a bite to eat or get a drink, and I'm like, ugh!
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
So I just don't do it.
Yeah, I tend to shy away from bedding areas as well, just because, like you said, I tend to bust them going in or not inopportune times. I try to cut them off in staging areas before the field. You know,
right.
where
at least let them have one safe area.
Yeah,
they feel safe at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I know, you know, everybody out there probably is aware of this, but you know, soybeans tend to turn, and they turn yellow, and the deer kind of stop eating them for a while, and they come back to them later once it cools off, and you know, you see these patterns change, and then the bachelor groups change, and everything is, like you said, Kenny. I'm getting better at just kind of starting to go out, you know, later and later toward Halloween. I always say, like, every big mature buck I've seen, generally, unless it's a one-off, I always say Halloween's the time when the monsters come out. So it's always in Ohio every year. Halloween is the date that you want to start getting the tree stand, because you're going to see those big boys getting their feet and start moving around. If you're after mature deer,
I've heard that from multiple people.
I've got 3 dates that are mandatory for me to be in a tree: Halloween, November 7th, November 11th.
I like those dates.
3 days religiously. You have to be in a stand, and those are the 3 that I always see my biggest bucks. And I said on a post somewhere that I've seen probably 3 7.5-year-old deer or older in my up close, within shot range of a gun, up close. All over, I've seen plenty of 5.5s, but you start getting those 7.5s, them smart deer.
Yes.
And I've seen 3. I've got 1 on the wall, and every one of them has been on one of those days. Every one of them. 2 of them on November 11th. 1 of them I shot. The other one was on November 11th, was probably 80 yards away. I had a bow in my hand, and the other one was on November 7th. And then I can't tell you the 150 class that I've seen on Halloween. I mean, just tons.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. They tend to come out right about that time of year. And I think the early season is beneficial for, you know, if you want to get out, like you said, and get a doe. But then younger hunters, I know another thing that I've experienced is you kind of you kind of get out, you're all excited for the season, like Kevin said, and then you go a lot, you end up getting kind of burned out early. You don't want. And honestly, it's admittedly something that happens to people. You kind of go out and you're after that deer, and you can see it on your camera, and you keep going out, and you don't see him, and then you start to teach them where the stand is, and they start to learn too much, and that can be a problem too. So I would say, moderation probably in everything for me. Like I'm getting better as I get older at like going out less and going out toward the October point in time, and waiting, just have more patience, and letting those big deer come to us instead of trying to track them down all the time.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one reason why I like going where we hunt, like it's mainly climbers because you get complacent with ladder stands. You know what I mean? Like you just, we'll just go hunt here. We'll just go hunt here. The same ladder stand, the same hang on.
Yeah.
I like to be able to switch it up, even if it's in the same area in a different tree, you know, so you try to stay hidden and not be detected. But like you said, I probably should wait until later on in the season to hunt, but I don't know.
Sometimes you can't. I get that too.
Yeah, I'm itching already.
I just want everybody to have fun. Like I think, serving out there, there's no perfect methodology for this, or there are wild animals and we're all hunters and having fun. So, while we convey these things to you guys out there and gals that hunt that we've experienced, it's just like stuff that we run into that might be helpful. It's not a biblical way of hunting deer, because, we're just out there having fun. So if you like to go out a bunch, and then eventually you might say, well, it might be better to wait a while because the skeeters are tearing me up. You'll learn.
Yeah, definitely. It's therapy to me either way. So
absolutely.
I gave up hunting out of a climber stand 10 years ago. One of the pro staffs I was on at that time, we decided to do a staff hunt, and so I ended up having 13 guys staying in my basement. Most of them I met for the first time when they showed up at my house.
Yep.
And just south of us, we have 6,000 acres of bow-only conservation land. And there's some big deer on there. And I had placed a couple of hang-on stands that I was going to hunt. And then I had a buddy I knew that came with me. And I said, here, let's go to a new place. I'll take you out there. I don't have a stand out there. I'll hunt from the ground. He goes, nope, I brought 2 climbing stands. You use one, I'll use one. I said, okay. So I'll get out there, and I didn't check the rope, the connection rope between the two.
Oh yeah.
The platform and the
Whoopsie.
seat. So I'm telling you, I'm climbing up. I'm easily 12 feet off the ground. The platform's probably 10, right? And all of a sudden I went to lift it and it slipped off my toes and it dropped to about 6 feet. And I was like,
yeah.
Holy smokes. I'm 5'9", and I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to do this? So I finally wiggled my way down, and I'm ape hanging from this thing. I could barely get my toes under it, and I was able to wiggle it up to where I could get back on there. I came all the way back down with that whole stand, and I hunted from the ground.
Hey, that's
I'm not
right.
getting a climber since.
No, I understand. Yeah, I like them, but wow.
I think we've all done that at least once, like drop the bottom from our stand. Like,
yes,
and that's like we've been told multiple times, and that's the way we learned. Like after we dropped the bottom out, we're like, all right, maybe I should tie them together now.
Yeah, you be doing some learning when you have that happen real quick. I've had that happen too, Kenny.
Yeah, you be doing some changing.
Yeah.
2 inches further down, one of the 2 pieces was staying in the tree.
Right.
So
I get that. Yeah, I had one experience where it was raining. I was in a climber, and I won't say the brand because I don't think it really matters, to be honest with you. But I was up pretty high, probably 18 feet, and I think it was probably a poplar, and it was smooth. The bark was really smooth, and it was wet and raining. And I went to drop the bottom down. I lifted up, kind of angled it to slide her down. Lifted the top up. Well, I angled the bottom. It started to slide, and the top just kind of did it naturally. And I slid down probably about 8 feet, and it locked. And I luckily I was hanging on tight enough to catch myself. But it was a good slide, and it was a real quick wake up call for me. And I thought, ooh, that was not a Cedar Point ride right there. That was a little dangerous. But I know I know there's plenty of times where I have when you're young, have not used the proper harnesses all the time going up and down a tree because you're fat, you're trying to get in and out. Sometimes you're just not thinking about it. Let's all be honest here. And so I recommend anybody to have like a lineman's belt. Make sure you strap yourself on that tree because you're your kids and family depend on you being alive and be around, and it's a dangerous thing real quick. Yeah, just and it happens. You just never know. I had another example of a here's an example of a hang on stand, and this was not. I don't remember what happened with it, but it was a hang on stand we had used for. And this is an example for everybody out there early season. Check all your cables and your hang-ons that connect the back with the bottom platform, because those things oxidize and rust over time, and those cables will start to fray. Well, this one, the right side cable, I think started to fray, and we've been using it for probably a month or so. We put it up, and I got in it, and I was sitting up in there, and I went to get down. I think when I got out, I put a little pressure on the bottom, and the right cable just snapped, and I about went out of the tree. Luckily, it's hanging on the screw-in step at the time. But that's another sample for people out there of things that you want to take a look at early season. Check all the bolts for rust and oxidation. Check your cables. Check everything, because you don't want to just assume those straps are not, chewed on or fraying apart either. It's those nylon straps can be dangerous. So just check your equipment out there.
Absolutely. I just got on in some new farms, and that's what we just did the last couple weekends. Just went and checked every single stand, every single strap. So, and then I'll be honest, like this is the first year I've had a harness. I've never used a harness my whole time hunting.
Oh, really?
Just
yeah.
Stupid. Yeah.
I get it.
I mean,
yeah.
So, but now I got little kids. I got a wife, and it tends to wake you up and make you grow a little bit. So I have a harness now.
Yeah, smart man.
I've hunted for a long time, and it was just not something you did. Nobody used harnesses.
Right.
You were using climbers and latch-ons. You just didn't do it. And I bet it's been probably 10 years that the last 10 years is all I've been using a harness. But I won't go into a tree stand without one anymore. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it scares you, doesn't it? You start, it's too scary. It's way too scary. I get it. I get it. Yeah. So that's a good positive thing out there for learn, especially early season. If you're a young hunter, really consider that. You've got a family, even in ladder stands, you fall asleep. I've been there before too, where I'm in a hang on and it's afternoon and it's, you're tired or you're sitting up in there and the sun's hitting you, man, you fall asleep and you fall off that thing and you catch yourself. Yeah. So it's important to check all those things out.
Young hunters have their whole life, and they need to decide whether they want to spend it in a wheelchair or being able to walk,
Absolutely.
That's what it comes down to, is that it's tough and it's real, and it won't happen to me. Happens to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's just not worth it.
And all of us, we're all human, right? So we always say, well, I won't do that. I won't be that statistic to fall out, but just be aware it can happen to anybody. So that's a good thing to learn. And then
I have a couple buddies that it's happened to. I mean,
really?
I knew somebody that fell out of a tree stand and his thumb got caught around his bow rope and it like ripped his thumb off.
Whew.
Oh,
yeah. And he's lucky that's all that happened. I mean, he fell completely out of the tree stand.
Right.
So and I've heard of people, locally that have died, passed away because they fell out. I'm not proud to say I've never worn a harness. I'm just saying I've never worn one, and it's time to start wearing one.
But you're being real. I appreciate that, Kevin. Being real. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I think that's one thing on here that I really appreciate about you guys, the authenticity and how real you are. You're just conveying this to people out there. We're not saying, we're perfect and we're always, the most safe people in tree stands. We're telling you things that we've done that maybe will save your life out there, or save this traumatic situation for you. So just be aware of that too, and back to like the shot angle, I was just going to throw this in there, think about where the deer might come in and leave, depending on how you want to set your stand up. Think about the sun, think about the wind, think about your cover in front of you, just all these things, like how you're going to access it when you're putting it up. Really put some thought into that as far as your hang on and your ladder. And then think about right or left-hand shooter. And then if you're a crossbow hunter, I know one thing, that if I'm in an elevated tree stand and I do have a crossbow, number one, please don't put the bolt and load the crossbow on the way up, because it is just an absolute terror waiting to happen when that thing, lets go and ends up hitting you or something. And then number two, when you're in a tree stand, you have a crossbow. One thing I like to do, because a lot of people, they're heavy, right? So it's kind of hard to brace. I always love to use my elbow. I'm a right-hand shooter, so I'll put my elbow on my knee, and I can actually use that as a brace to get a really steady shot on a crossbow instead of having a big apparatus up there. Sometimes easier and simple is better, especially with a crossbow because you're heavy. So use your knee as a brace when you're up in there, get a nice steady shot. But think about that in your shot angle as you're setting your tree stand, because if that tree stand's like straight out, you're gonna have to contort your body clear sideways to get your knee to brace on. So maybe angle it a little bit. And those are pointers for anybody out there that might be using crossbow.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it takes a lot of homework when you're setting up a stand.
It does.
I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to, obviously, but in order to do it, correctly, the right location, like you said, getting in and out, having an entrance and an escape plan. Because I mean, that's two important things. Like if you're just gonna spook deer when you get down and walk out, that's no good, right? Yeah, everybody talks about an entrance plan. You got to have an exit plan too.
Yep.
So it's a lot to think about when you're setting up different stands, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, another thing is I've got a friend of mine, young, and I told him he was going to ruin the hunting spot, but he was young and he would get down, Missouri, you can shoot till a half hour after official sundown. And he would just get down. It wouldn't matter if there were deer down in front of him or not. He would just
Nah, you
get down.
gotta wait.
You've got to wait. Let them clear. They will clear eventually.
Yeah.
It may be an hour and a half, but they're going to clear.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen to you. So just sit there.
Yeah.
So, but I'm also the type of guy that sits back when I know now that he's sitting there and texting, "What's taking you so long? Was Darren from? I just spook him out, I give him crap. You're the one that told me to stay. Yeah,
let's go eat. I'm hungry. Let's go eat.
Yeah, right.
Hurry up.
Yeah.
No, I get that. Another thing too, like you said, Kenny, if you're doing that, then those old nanny does, the first ones are gonna walk by that stand, they're gonna look right up at you and bust you the next time and blow at you because they are hypersensitive to those stand placements. They're gonna see
absolutely
you all the time. And then I think another thing I was gonna throw in too, just thinking about it, just comments on hanging stands and going through my mind. I always try to get the base of the tree and look straight up before I hang on to look at which way is that tree leaning? Is it going to be comfortable, or are you going to be hanging out weirdly, trying to fall down off that tree if it's kind of canting a little bit one direction or the other? So it's always good to look at the base, look straight up the tree and kind of look at the limbs and analyze where everything is, so how you want to do that.
How many times I set up my climber in the morning and you just like you're like in a rush and you just set it up, you climb up to the top of the tree and it's like you're in a recliner or something. Like you got to pull yourself up to get out.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's always a game.
Have you got? Here's one for a climber. You guys ever like climbed up a tree? You said, Kevin, a climber, and you didn't angle enough on the tree up to going up, and then by the time you get to the top, the tree's a smaller diameter, so everything's leaning downhill.
So down, yeah.
And you gotta pull the bottom half of the stand up with your feet, and then relatch it tighter so it's level.
Yeah, I've done that. I've done that so many times. It's actually like I don't even like to admit it. Like it's almost embarrassing. But yeah, I've done it plenty of times.
Oh yeah.
And then I think that gets so sketchy too when you're trying to pull up the bottom of the tree stand and like adjust
sketch.
it. Yeah, adjust it. You're like, if I just let go of this right now,
it's all over.
It's all over, man.
Yeah, I've been there too. Yeah, you're fighting with it.
Your asshole's popping in the first thing in the morning, man. It's like, man, this is dangerous. Pitch black.
Yeah, or you climb up a tree too, and I I'll say I'm still an advocate of climbers just because they are pretty easy and quick to get in any tree.
Oh yeah,
it's got to be straight, but you'll be shimming up the tree in the dark of the morning, right? Also, it's a nice straight tree. You're just shimming up like a little squirrel. You get about 8 feet up or 10 feet up. There's like 15 limbs you didn't see. They're blocking you from going anywhere. So you get out your little saw and you're like a rabid squirrel at 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
Trying to get them off.
We've all been there. We've all been there.
Making a circus come through.
Yeah. But I've said this before on previous podcasts. Those types of hunts where it's like everything's going wrong. You're running a few minutes late. Now you got to saw limbs off at the top of the tree because you're a dummy and didn't look up, right? They turn out to be the best hunts. I don't know why. It's like the most messed up mornings I could ever have turn out to be one of the best sits I've ever had. It's if it goes smooth, I'm like, well, I might as well get down. Like this is too smooth. I'm not going to see nothing.
I think it was like last week's when I said, deer make noise. I mean, it's not quiet in the woods when they come through, whether it's before sunup or not. They're not quiet. All right. When they're quiet is when you got that open field out in front of you. But when they're walking through the trees, they are not quiet. Turkeys are freaking loud.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
Every critter that goes through are loud. And here you are trying to be dead silent, and then you're on it and going, I'm waking up the world. You're not, man. It took me a long time to get that mindset. And the more I got that mindset, those ended up being some of the best hunts that I'm thinking I'm waking up the world, but I'm I'm not doing anything that they're not already hearing.
There's still noise out there. I agree.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like when you
go ahead.
no, I was just saying, it's like when you unroost a group of turkeys in the woods at first thing, like in pitch black, and it's just like elephants flying through the trees. Yeah, make you.
Oh my gosh,
that's like the
man.
worst. Like you're not expecting it at all, and all of a sudden it's just like a herd of elephants just took off through the trees.
That's when you wish you had a second change of underwear.
No doubt. I was gonna say that. Yeah,
and make you like hit the ground. Like, oh,
yeah. I was walking past it one morning. I was walking in. It was pretty early, and I always remember. I was walking in deer hunt, and there's this brush pile in the middle of the field, and I was gonna walk for the brush pile and sneak around it like a little cover. You know where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. So it's half dark, and I'm walking past the brush pile. I'm sneaking, step at a time, and I get near this brush pile, and all of a sudden, I didn't know there was a grouse in there. Okay. And I was probably like maybe 2 feet from this grouse when it took off like a Chinook helicopter. And I just about had to change my pants. I was like, what? I was by myself and I about lost it.
Your heart just fell to your ankle.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Quail,
that'll get the
way. You get a covey of quail that you jump up out of a patch, and it's just your heart
terrifies you.
Oh yeah.
Keeps you alive, at least for a while, until a stroke happens or something. Like that,
At least you'll be a little warm if it's really cold out. Your adrenaline will be pumping.
Absolutely.
And then your body temperature will just drop after that once you get in the tree. And that's the biggest thing. So if we're going to touch on that real quick. That's the biggest thing. I see a lot of hunters still do this. Like it'll be 20 degrees out, and they're wearing their full on gear to the tree stand, walking to the stand. Their body temperature just raises so much. And then by the time you get in the tree and you sit down, your body temperature starts coming down. And if you sweat a little bit,
sweaty.
You're freezing.
Yep,
you're freezing after that. Like I wear just a thin base layer no matter what to my stand. I'll get dressed at the base of the tree.
So if I'm carrying both packs, my pack that's my hunting pack and then my pack that's my camera pack, if I'm carrying all of that plus whatever my weapon is, then I'll have the backpack on and I'll have my jacket completely open walking in.
Yeah,
but if I'm not carrying all that stuff, I'll take my jacket off and walk in without it. It's just that extra thing of trying to carry that jacket. My packs are full. I can't put my jacket in there to begin with.
For sure.
But, I'm usually on a climber.
That ventilation going.
Right. Yeah. I'm usually have a climber, and then I have my pack strapped to the climber, and then
I do
have
that too.
My jackets and stuff are strapped to my bag. So like I don't have anything on but like a thin base layer. Like it could be 15 degrees out. Yeah, that's what I'm wearing because I don't feel like getting to the stand sweating.
Well, and I know about you guys, but too, as I get older, I'm a big minimalist. So like I'm getting less and less. Like everybody has like 15 gadgets, 25 things taken out. I just take the bare necessities with me hunting anymore because I don't want to carry any more stuff than I have to because it's just extra weight and you forget things out there. And I lost a nice grunt call last year, didn't know where it went, and found it this spring, that sort of thing. So I think one thing to remember is like try to be a little bit of a minimalist maybe as you hunt because it's going to make your life a little easier when you get out that stand and not have to deal with so much to remember all the time. You remember the hunt and what you're doing and not trying to remember all the stuff you're taking. I know we all have cell phones and different apparatus for recording, but I tend to like, and we might want to get into this next episode, but I tend to like the GoPro. Some people use a Tacticam, but I like the GoPro in my head now because it's actually kind of focusing on what I'm looking at and it's not vibrating or anything. And it's capturing the whole situation. So you can get multiple ones and hook them together digitally and connect them. But that might be a good topic for, another episode is like recording hunts versus non-recording hunts and what's important versus what's not. So might be good to talk about next time.
Yeah,
that's actually
both of my packs are small. Both of my packs are small because I'm a pack rat, man. If you give me a big pack, I'm going to fill it.
Yeah, right.
That's who I am. So I went to small packs. I mean, they look like little kids' kindergarten camo packs because they're small.
Yeah,
right.
That's what
Well, you gotta have snacks too. You gotta have snacks.
Yeah.
That's a given. You gotta have your snacks.
Dude, I promise there's snacks in my bag.
I just went through my pack this past weekend to clean it out and wash my hunting clothes and everything, get ready. I was like, I had like 4 grunt calls in there. I'm like, what am I going to need 4 grunt calls for? Like, I just like accumulated stuff and I haven't cleaned it out. And I was just like, what am I going to use all 4 at once? Like,
I had a guy.
I'm not going to need that.
real quick to finish tonight. I had a guy from South Africa and his wife up here hunting last year. Really appreciate him, but he didn't know how to use a grunt call, so I had to text him in tree stand because he was sucking them the wrong end of the grunt call, sucking in the grunt call, and it was making this horrendous noise in tree stand. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You got to blow in the grunt call. So we had a good laugh about that one. So thank you guys for coming on tonight. It's a great episode for early season tactics and a good combo as always. Like, share, give us a review. Again, it's episode 27 of the Green Belt Hunt podcast, and next week we're going to talk to ballistic crossbows and have Dirk Stark on, so that'll be kind of an informative episode as well. So look forward to that one. You guys take care out there.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.